Folks, it's not Friday, but it is June the 10th. It is Thursday. But you know what? I didn't do a weekly video last Friday. And my feelings aren't hurt, but nobody asked me about it. Frankly, there was just too much going on, and there were some things that I couldn't really announce because the final decisions hadn't been made, and I kind of wanted to hold off. So I know excuses, excuses. But anyway, I'm doing the video early this week because now there is a lot of news and a lot to talk about. So let me get started. First off, all things COVID. There's not a lot going on with COVID right now. That doesn't mean the pandemic is gone. The pandemic is not gone by any stretch of the imagination. It is slowed. There are much, much fewer cases. But, we still don't quite know whether or not to expect a surge after the Memorial Day holiday, and the 4th of July holiday is ahead of us. Vaccination, though, is dramatically decreasing, and that did seem to be the one thing that really could make a difference in getting the pandemic under control. And if it decreases, we might start seeing a kind of a bounce back. I talk about this every single video, and you're probably tired of hearing it, but concerns are really beginning to escalate around the variants that are out there. And now there is even a triple variant. So it isn't going away. Um, we are getting very concerned about the cases with kids, children, because those cases, when they happen, are very severe. Some of the consequences of that is the condition that you might have heard called MIS-C, and we are following those cases very, very closely in the state. I stay connected in many different settings with MUSC, USC, Prisma, DHEC, and so forth to make sure that we are still abreast and knowledgeable about what is going on. But we are really having a decline right now. Even our testing, and not just our testing, but testing throughout the state, has dramatically decreased. We are going to really make sure that people know that we have rapid testing available now because there hasn't been a huge demand for that. And in the beginning, we were a little concerned that if we promoted rapid testing, and our rapid testing is free, that we would be inundated, but that hadn't happened. So you're going to see a little bit more promotion around that. We are not doing testing except in our sites and on our movies, and we're not still not doing quite a bit. Um, Speaking of our Mobi, you might be wondering, okay, vaccinations are down, testing is down. What are they using the Mobis for? Well, when we conceived of these Mobis, we thought, knowing that buying that expensive piece of equipment, and five of them, although one was donated by Care First, that was a pretty expensive thing to do, and we don't want them just sitting around. So we kind of looked for the future and said that maybe we could use these to be able to bring out to our patients testing for other things like doing their hemoglobin A1C so that patients don't have to travel into our offices, that they can get routine testing, laboratory things done in our mobile settings. We're actually going to start testing that with a PDSA going on in Dillon with our Dillon Mobi and seeing how that works out. So the Mobis will still be a cornerstone to how we do business, whether or not it's for COVID testing or COVID vaccination or other things. And I'm really looking forward to that. So keep that on our radar screen. Speaking of all things COVID, though, the last thing is herd immunity. I'm just stunned by what we were able to accomplish with achieving herd immunity at Care South and over 19 locations. achieved 80% herd immunity, and that is just awesome. And for those of us that were in a site or a location that got that, we got our free vacation day. Today is Thursday. That's why I'm doing this video early, because I'm taking my vaccination vacation day tomorrow. I really need it. And that's been a really cool thing. And you all know by now that the $500 cash awards have already been distributed, and cash is in the hand of those 10 lucky winners. That was a fun thing to do. But we're going one step further. We really so appreciate what you've done individually in achieving this big important step at CareSouth, that we're going to be gifting some really cool things coming up. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I think you're really going to like these gifts for achieving the vaccination herd immunity goal that we put in place for ourselves at CareSouth. Stay tuned, more to come on that when we're ready to announce it. Um, Other news, though, has been some pretty big developments. We have some major organizational clinical leadership changes to announce. Um, no, Dr. Smith is not being replaced yet. He is still just the interim chief medical officer, although we are still recruiting and we're looking into that. And we have some candidate potentials that are still under investigation. But we have made some other clinical leadership changes. We have a new position of the Chief of Value-Based Care in our organization, and Dr. Janiqua Duncan is our first and our new Chief of Value-Based Care, VBC. You've probably gotten tired of hearing me talk about, which I've talked about now for the past, I don't know, 5 or 6 years, about the future of value-based care and what that's going to mean, particularly in FQHCs. Let me just a quick little review on that. Remember, now we essentially get reimbursed when we do something. It's called fee-based reimbursement. So in other words, we do an encounter, we do a 9921 whatever, and we get paid for it on a fee schedule basis. Well, the world is slowly moving away from that. By value-based care, what we mean is that we're going to be reimbursed based on our value, based on keeping our patients healthy and keeping costs down. That's value-based care in a nutshell. Lots of things go into play with that, like assuring that patients are receiving the specific meeting their needs, like getting their hemoglobin A1Cs on time if they are diabetic, if they have hypertension, monitoring that with regular blood pressure checks. All of that is part of value-based care, making sure we aren't making unnecessary referrals, or that our patients aren't unnecessarily going to the ER at a much higher cost whenever we could meet their needs in our own settings. Making sure that after hospitalizations, because hospitalizations do still happen, that we follow up and prevent rehospitalization. All those are factors that contribute to achieving value-based care. And this new division, that will be their focus. It's a multidisciplined approach on that. And we're going to be really making some steps that will be robustly enhancing what we currently do in value-based care. And like I said, we welcome our first appointment to that. Dr. Janiqua Duncan is taking the helm as the Chief of Value-Based Care. And you might be saying, okay, well, she was Associate Medical Director, so who's going to be stepping up into that position? That is my second announcement. Jerry Andrews is stepping up into that position. You all may know Jerry from her work in telehealth, shepherding us in the very initial days of COVID as everything almost switched over to telehealth visits overnight. It was an amazing achievement. Jerry has also been a key leader in our offsite services, either mobile off-site with our roads teams or even in our site locations, such as our um, public employee site over in Bennettsville. She's also been very much our point person as we rolled into our new EHR, which is ECW. There was a lot to do in that. You know, we implemented a new EHR right in the middle of the pandemic, and on top of some real issues around data that really eventually resulted in the data breach that we all know about and are glad to get addressed. So, big announcements. We really are looking at retooling and rethinking our organizational structure. COVID has taught us a lot. The pandemic has revealed some things that told us we needed to refocus and revision some things. So this is not really the end of our work in reorganization, but it's been a very good beginning, and we really are looking forward to these developments with Dr. Duncan and Jerry Andrews. So when you see them, congratulate them on their new efforts. There'll be some learning curves and some growing pains, some mistakes, but you know, we're here, South Carolina. We're strong. We'll overcome most anything. Um, I also have a huge announcement around a development. The feds, um, in the American Rescue Act, there was a carve out that was specific around allowing capital construction. And what I mean by capital construction is construction for the first time in over a decade was going to be funded that would allow organizations to either renovate or build new construction. The board had decided, I think now about a year and a half ago, that our strategy priorities for capital construction were going to be Latta and Sherrall. Latta, you all may recall, is currently serving in a school building, an old school building, and has had many problems of leakage. There was even that time when the sewage backed up in there. So it was kind of a no-brainer on why that would be a priority. And Sherrall, as many of you may or may not know, is currently located in a building that we lease from McLeod. And it's a very awkward situation there. It's two suites that we lease. They are not even joined together. The pharmacy is squeezed into one little corner of it and is exploding out of the seams over there, as is our medical needs. Parking is a nightmare, literally a nightmare. I hesitate to even visit Poor Sherrall because I know I shouldn't park. When I park, I'm going to be taking up a valuable space for patients. So, no doubt about it of those two priorities. We did everything in our power, frankly, to procure land in Latta. I know that personally, I looked into at least 7 pieces of property. We actually made offers on some, and we simply had not been able to procure property. And we had been on a very tight timeline on this. We had to have a property in hand, either with an intent to buy or an option to purchase by earlier this week, Tuesday and Wednesday. We simply were not able to accomplish that in Latta, although I so appreciate the Herculean efforts on behalf of a lot of staff there in Latta, and I know that they are very disappointed. But there will be a new building eventually in Latta. Just sit tight. It's just not going to happen this go around. But there will be a new building for Sherrall. We actually have procured property in Sherrall. For those of you who are familiar with Sherrall, it is on State Road. The address is actually 814 State Road. It is a very good location. This location is adjacent to the Faith Presbyterian Church. State Road also happens to have a very wonderful park that is on it. It is called the Back Road to Walmart. So it's in a good location. It's not very commercialized yet, except that there is the church on it. There's a nursing home on it, and of course the state, not the state park, but the local park is on it. We are really excited about this piece of property. It has 8 acres on it. It's a beautiful piece of property, and I'm really excited for Sherrall. I know that this is going to make a real difference. Now, what we will be building is essentially the same building that is in Chesterfield, virtually plug and play. So I'm very excited. I confess I'm disappointed that things couldn't work out for Lada, but not to fear, Lada. There is still a future ahead with a new building. It will happen. We have a way of making things happen, but it's just going to take more time than we could um, pull together for this grant application. The short timeline really put some pressure on us. So good things and some disappointment, so to speak. Um, you may have also heard that there is another part of the Rescue Act that has already been granted to us, and you will start seeing some things really begin to happen now. We budgeted a lot of new staff for this particular part of the Rescue Act grant. We budgeted some new equipment even for this. There's a lot that's going to be happening. It's a big budget. I can't go over it in detail in line items because frankly I can't remember all of it. But there you will see a lot happening. A lot happening in marketing, a lot happening in terms of not just equipment but new staffing, a lot happening in some additional incentive bonuses that I'm so happy to be able to roll out. So stay tuned on that. There is a lot more to come, a lot more exciting things to come. I told y'all there was a lot to talk about, and there has been. This has been a rather long video. I'm going to leave you now. Please remember, though, that we're facing a weekend. The pandemic is not over. Stay safe. We still have to be mindful of wearing our mask. If you haven't gotten your vaccination, please continue to think about that. But please continue to encourage that. There is still a pandemic out there. But otherwise, y'all stay safe. Have a very good weekend. There are good things on the horizon. Bye bye.